Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, and I am back again for another soloing school video. This time we are going to be taking the triads that we have been looking at in previous videos and really adapting them, turning them into new things, mutating them until they no longer resemble what they started as. And this is going to be fantastic for adding new chord vocabulary to your playing. And also we're going to turn them into seventh chords, so you should be able to play some really nice modern sounding jazz chord voicings. Obviously we will talk about the blues today, but we'll also get towards jazz at the end. We'll look at Giant Steps, one of these all-time classics. So before we get into it, I should probably just point out, yes, finally new cameras up and running. I'm doing things differently now. This is actually what my Skype lessons look like now, believe it or not. Absolutely ridiculous quality. So thank you so much for all of your support. As always, if you want to check me out on Patreon, link is in the description. Anyway, on with the lesson. So, see, another camera angle. What we're going to do is, if we just take the triads, grab a pick, that would be helpful. If we just take the triads that we have already learned, or the things that I will have gone over with you in many of my private lessons, if I take my basic 3-position, the ACE system, which is what I'm calling it these days, if I take these triads that we've definitely spent some time looking at, these basic triad positions. Now you'll need to be able to play all of these. These are probably very important. That's every possible closed voice triad that exists on the guitar. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those triads. If we take the one here on the top part of that E-shaped chord, so this will be the third, the fifth and the root. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that triad and we're going to mutate each one of those notes. So we'll take the lowest note, the third in this case, and if I move that up a semitone, the third becomes the fourth. I'll now have the fourth, fifth and root, and this gives me a sus4 sound. I could also go the other way. I could take the third and lower it down to the second. This is going to give me a sus2, a G sus2 chord. Now, lots of other things you could do. You could, of course, play minor triads. That would require taking that third and lowering it down a semitone. It's going to give us a G minor sound. But the point is, what we're learning is this is the third. This is where the third exists in that triad voicing. Very, very important. And we can move it up a semitone to make a sus4, down a tone to make a sus2. Now, if I do the same with the next voicing in the chord, we have the fifth. I can move the fifth up a tone to the sixth. This will give me a G6 chord. Totally acceptable sound. That's a G6, the third, the sixth and the root. I can also actually move that fifth down to the fourth and you get this really nice Pat Metheny-esque add 11 voicing. Anyone that tells you you can't play a fourth in a major chord, they're lying. We can also take that fifth and move it up a minor third. So moving the fifth up to the flat 7. Now this is going to give us a dominant 7 chord. Third, flat 7 and root. Lovely chord voicing, and we'll come back to it. We could also move that up one more to the major 7th, and this will give us a G major 7 chord voicing. A little bit trickier to play, but it can be done. Nice voicing. Now let's move over to the top. We can take the root note, we could move it up a tone. This will give us an add 9. We could move it down a semitone. This is going to give us a major 7 chord. That's the third, the fifth and the root. The third, the fifth and the 7th. And we could also move that note down again to the flat 7. This will give us a G7 chord. You could go one further, move it down to the 6. It's another G6 voicing. The point is, what we're focusing on here is how we can go about turning a major triad into something else, into something that is going to be massively usable for us. And what we're going to focus on today are 7th chords. So the focus being major 7s, and dominant 7s, because those are the chords we're going to actually need. But dominant 7s are going to be a big focus. So I think what you will already know is most of the time, if you play a triad voicing, if you take the root note that's in your triad and lower that a semitone, that's going to give you the major 7 voicing. And that's a great way of achieving that. It doesn't matter what chord voicing you play. If I take this voicing, it comes out of my C shape. If I take that chord, this is a G major triad. If I lower the root note, this is going to give me a G major 7 sound. Totally acceptable major 7 sound. Sounds great. We could also go one further and we could lower that note a second semitone down to the flat 7. That's going to give us a G7 sound. So we have G and then G7. Or here, G, take the root, lower it a tone, gives us a G7 sound. Words to that effect. So G7. And really what I'm doing there is I'm focusing on seeing my triad, but playing a dominant 7 chord sound. These are going to be super effective and super useful, but here's where the fun comes in. I think it's even more fun to take each one of these chords. Here's my chord. And take the 5th and raise it up to the 7th. So if I take my 5th and move that up to the flat 7, we now have this new voicing. That's a dominant 7 chord. We could move it up one more and have a major 7 chord voicing. Now, I don't think the voicings that come out of that particular triad are the best sounding ones, but if we jump back here, this is my G major triad. The 5th is in the middle. If I now move this note up to the flat 7, this is a great sounding chord. Now, you would play that anyway in the middle of this G7 voicing. But seeing that it came from this voicing is really useful to me. I could also move that 7th up again to the major 7. You get this lovely voicing. And what you'll find with a lot of these raised 5th voicings, that's what I think of them as, raised 5th voicings, is that they end up giving you these lovely clusters because the 5th goes up to the 7th, and then hopefully you're going to have the root above that. So you have these nice 7th and root clusters in the middle of our chords. It really doesn't matter where you go or how you voice these chords, you are going to find that. If I'm playing C major, triad voicing, take the 5th, move it up to the major 7th, a lovely little voicing. Doesn't matter how you voice these are always going to work and they're always going to sound absolutely luscious. If we take the voicing on the top, triad voicing on the top of the C shape, my voicing would be 5th, root, 3rd. So again, if I take the 5th and move it up to the flat 7, this is going to give me a lovely G7 voicing. I can move it up to the major 7 and give you this. Now, the way that I would encourage you to practice this is twofold. First of all, you want to take a basic chord progression, very simple chord progression. So if we take G major, we'll play G major for a bar. We'll then play G7 for a bar. We'll then play C major for a bar, and then C minor for a bar. This will pull us back to the G. It's going to give you a lovely sound. So my G would look like, well, lots of ways you can play a G. But if we start like this, nice and simple, I can take this voicing, and then I've got a choice. I can either lower the root to the flat 7, or I could raise the 5th. These are both totally acceptable. It's all about resolving to that C. So let's do this. We'll play G, raise the 5th, C major, C minor, back to my G. Let's do it a different way. G major, lower the root, You could go round and round and round with this and have lots of fun. I'm just trying to visualize my basic triad and then turn that into a dominant. It's a wonderful exercise, and yeah, definitely would encourage you to do that. Now, if you've studied with me for a long time, either on YouTube or privately, you'll be very familiar with those 12 triad voicings, with the 12 closed voice triad positions. You want to apply this to every single one of them. Being able to turn each one of those voicings into a dominant chord and into a major 7 chord is going to be really, really beneficial. Let's prove it. So let's take a look at giant steps. Now, what I'm going to do with giant steps is I'm going to play the chords just boring triad way first. Let's try it again. Just play them the boring triad way first. And then we're going to turn each one of those into our equivalent 7th chord. So if I take a B major triad like this, first chord of giant steps. Let's just triads, okay? First chords in giant steps. Yeah, so B major. Now these are just triad voicings, okay? E shape major triad. We're then going to go to a D major. We're then going to play G major. I'm going to shift that up to play B flat major. I'm then going to play E flat major. So that's the first 5 chords of giant steps. B major, D major, G major, B flat major, E flat major. Just playing major triads, just starting out with those triad sounds. Very, very useful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to play the major triad, and then we're going to lower the root in each one of those to the relevant chord. So B major becomes B major 7 by lowering the root. Okay? D major becomes D7 by lowering the root. G major becomes G major 7 by lowering the root. B flat major becomes B flat 7 by lowering the root. E flat major becomes E flat major 7 by lowering the root. So that's one way you can play through that. But let's do the same thing now, raising the 5th. And these are the ones that I think sound the best. If I take B major, raise the 5th, B major 7. D major, raise the 5th, D7. G major, raise the 5th, G major 7. B flat major, raise the 5th, B flat 7. E flat major, raise the 5th, E flat major 7. That's a lovely voicing. Now, of course, you don't want to play through a chord progression like that using the same voicings every single time, always raised 5ths or always lowered roots. But if I play through it and voice lead it really nicely, you can have something that sounds like this. And to me, I'll play that one more time for you. That's like a really luscious way of playing those first chords, the giant steps. If I sing the melody, forget my chords. What are the chords? G major. First chords. This isn't about teaching you all of those chords. In fact, I mean, really the exercise would be for you to go and do that, right? You to go and work through that entire chord progression. Now, knowing that, you should be able to, as homework, just take those first chords and do that starting absolutely anywhere. If I started B major here, here's my lowered root, and here's my raised 5th. My next chord would be a D7. Here's my D major, here's my lowered root, or here's my raised 5th. Or if I were to play my D major like this, Here would be my lowered root. Here would be my raised fifth. Next chord would be G major. Here would be my lowered root. Here would be my raised fifth. Now it's totally up to you how you play through that, but being able to go, those are really effective ways of playing through those changes. And I think to my ears, it sounds a little bit cooler than going. That's fine. In fact, if you're playing in a dual guitar setup, having one person play while you're playing is a really effective way of adding some sort of texture to that and really taking that to the next level. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to overload you with information, but hopefully that is a really nice and enjoyable advanced triad exercise that you can use to take your understanding of chord voicings on the guitar and voice leading your triads, voice leading your melodies in your chords to really pleasing places. So hopefully you got some enjoyment out of that. Lastly, I want to say a huge thank you, as they scroll below, we are scrolling now, to my supporters over on Patreon. You guys keep these videos coming. You have been patient with me while these PC troubles and health troubles have been going on over the last month or so. So thank you so much for sticking with me. If you would like more videos like this and to become part of the Patreon community, there is a link in the description where you can check me out. Alternatively, you can also head on over to Amazon and check out one of my books. There's some of them listed there on the side. Of course, there are many more over on Amazon. Great way to support the channel, and I genuinely really do appreciate your support. So thank you very much for that. If you would like to check me out on Patreon, you can do so by clicking this button up here. You can subscribe by clicking this button down here, and you'll see 2 more of my soloing school videos here and here. As always, guys, any questions whatsoever, please do let me know in that comment section below. I am here to help you. I'm here to help you achieve the things that you want to achieve. So much love, and I will see you for another video soon. Goodbye.